Hi everyone. So I wanted to talk about Genesis 1:29 and Genesis 2 verses 8 through 9 because that is really the basis of why we eat the way we do. It's the true way of how us human beings, in my opinion, are truly meant to eat. Because I know, I'm not sure if you guys are a believer in a higher power or in God and Jesus and everything. Hopefully you do believe in God and Jesus. Hopefully you do. I pray that you guys do. But I do know that is the one thing that really saved me from my personal health problems. And it's amazing how straightforward and clear it is, because Genesis 1:29 is where God tells us. It's like on the very first page of the Bible. It's so simple. It's right there. It's where God tells us He's given us every green plant and every fruit with seed in it. It will be ours for food. And then verses um, Genesis 2 verses 8 through 9 is where God tells us he put man in a garden in the east in Eden, and there he made all kinds of trees grow out of the ground. All types of trees grow, and he made it pleasing to our eyes and good for food. And so that explains why gravitate to the abundance of the fruits in trees, on plants, and the vibrant colors. It just naturally happens. And that, I believe, is no coinkydink. It ain't no coinkydink, because that's the way God created us. He created us where that's where that desire and that connection occurs, is because that's the way God created us, and if God creates us, of course he's such a loving God. God is so loving, and he loves us so much. It's incomprehensible, really. And he cares so much for us, for our health. And of course, he's going to tell us what we need to take care of ourselves and how to take care of ourselves too. And so, and it's wonderful how he says that in the very beginning, and that's why I like to take health from a standpoint going all the way back from the beginning, the original beginning, because it was true then, and it still is true to this very day, and it will be for the future days to come, and even when we finally get to heaven and paradise is restored, plant foods, from what I understand, and from what I've learned from the Bible and other pastors and everything, is that we're going to be eating fruits again. We're going to be eating plants and stuff, and it's kind of really interesting when you look into that. That's a whole nother topic too, but a whole nother video to get into. But it's just interesting, because when we look at Genesis 1:29, God said He's given us every green plant. Okay, so every green plant means every green plant on the face of the planet, on this planet, okay? And every fruit with seed in it, it will be ours for food. So that means that's all the fruits. So every green plant is all the leafy greens, all the veggies, and even the starches, the herbs, the spices. So that's one debate. I think a lot of, in this health movement, and it gets pretty testy, with some people, is the debate between starches and raw fruits and vegetables, and but I completely understand that, both sides. I understand both sides, and but when you take it back to the very beginning, that you're not going to be condemned if you consume starches and cooked plant foods and stuff like that, or the plant foods that kind of require cooking, because God gave us every green plant, and of course, again, I'm thinking of ginger and onions, and then I mentioned herbs and spices and stuff too, but you know what, because those are all plant foods. But the problem lies where what is most optimal for us though? I mean, if we were back in the Garden of Eden or even in a tropical jungle into this day and age, we really wouldn't be eating starches. We really wouldn't be eating probably not a lot of spices either, or even herbs, and because we would mainly be eating fruit. It would mainly be fruit because that's what we're surrounded by, and that's what is easily accessible to us, and that's what we gravitate to because it's colorful. And when the fruit is ripe, it literally falls from the tree and it literally breaks open itself, and it's so easy for us to eat, and it's of course perfect for our digestion. All you raw foodies know this. All you raw foodies already know this. But like, I think we wouldn't even know that starches exist. We wouldn't even know that potatoes, yams, sweet potatoes, or even ginger, or maybe even onions, we wouldn't even know or that they would exist because they're under the ground, because they're under the ground. So you wouldn't even know they're there because we're walking on the ground, we're hiking or moving around all the times. And so what's at our eye level, and we're kind of always looking up and enjoying our surroundings, and that's where all the fruit is at. That's where the fruit is at our eye level, in our eye perspective, viewpoint of our world or the space that we're in. So we always see fruit. And I think if we were back, if you were just in a general jungle, where there's abundance of fruits, and if potatoes were there, you wouldn't even know that they were there because they're under the ground. You're walking on the ground, so you wouldn't even know potatoes and yams are there because that's how potatoes and yams grow, is under the ground. But same with like ginger. Ginger kind of grows under the ground and all these other roots and stuff. But even like I said, onions, but even some spices, I think we wouldn't even, and even nuts, even some nuts we wouldn't really consume because you wouldn't really even know kind of what the heck it is hanging off the tree. You'd be curious, but it would take you a frickin' long time to get into the darn nut, And there's some nuts that are actually poisonous to us, that harm us, that actually require cooking in order to consume them. And that's kind of how it is with the starches, is in order to consume starches, for it to make it palatable and more desirable to eat, and for it to feel better inside for our bodies, to easily digest and extract, assimilate and everything, it requires cooking. And when you're in the jungle, or if you're back in the Garden of Eden days, God did not give you an oven on your back when you were born. He did not give you a microwave on your back when you were born. He gave you fingers, he gave you hands, he gave you all the senses: sight, touch, taste, smell, hearing, and we use all of that for seeking out our food, to making sure figuring it out and then experiencing it, to see if it's actually good or not, And of course, I think there's a problem that lies in today's day and age because we're in a sinful state, we're in the sinful world. It's not a perfect world or anything. And so that's kind of the reason why not all plant foods are edible. Not every green plant is edible. There's a lot of plants that are poisonous, and there's a good side to why they are poisonous, because they are helpful, but they are also detrimental and bad. Of course, I'm not saying like consuming poisonous plants or anything. Poisonous plants, I see that there is a benefit to them because they fight off certain insects or other weeds to help protect the foods that are edible. Because I know if just in general gardening, if you've gardened long enough, that there's certain flowers and certain plants that you grow next to other plants that you want to grow so you can consume them, but you plant these other plants next to it to ward off certain bugs, to ward off certain animals, to help protect that one plant that you want to grow and for it to produce fruit for you to consume. Because I know up here in Alaska, my mom, and that's one thing I've learned in a lot of the gardens up here, is you see a lot of foxglove. A lot of foxglove flowers and plants planted around gardens and stuff, because those plants are what ward off moose. Those are the plants that moose hate. So you can plant it around your garden, and so when the moose come over after you spent so long the short summer, but I mean you spent a good chunk of energy and time on planting, and you want to go to harvest, usually that's the time the moose come, and then they can just eat your entire garden. But if you plant foxglove flowers, they will stay away. It'll keep them away, and it protects the food that you want to eat. So there is a benefit to poisonous plants on this planet, but it's also very detrimental. So of course, don't eat poisonous plants, because we know that because some plants can kill us. It can kill us. Some plants do more harm than good. So there is a good chunk of plants God has created for us that is specifically for us to consume, that we know to consume, and that's why I think as far as the nut and seed issue goes, yeah, if you listen to a lot of raw foodies, they kind of really don't recommend nuts and seeds, because, well, they do, but they kind of try to stay away from them, because it's not something you would really eat in your natural environment. It would be hard to get into them, and it'd be hard to even know that they're there, So you'd mostly gravitate to the fruits, which is the fattier fruits is the durian and the avocados. And then I'm sure there's a lot of other tropical fruits out there that you've never even heard of that you would probably come across that are higher in fat too, which would be another good option. But then there's coconuts, but coconuts, I think a coconut is a nut, but it would take quite a while to get into a coconut, I think. But mainly you would have the avocados and durian, and that's best on digestion too. It's better on the body as far as the fat issue goes aspect, It's much better than nuts and seeds, really, if you think about it. But I just thought I would mention that, or kind of talk about it, because I know it can be a touchy issue, a touchy subject when it comes to spiritual things, but I know for me, I do classify myself as a Christian, and so I am a Christian low-fat raw vegan, and because a lot of people are shocked when they hear that, and so I'm like, well, I don't think it's shocking, but I mean, I am a believer in God, in Jesus, most definitely. I view it as a relationship, not a religion. It's most definitely not a religion. It's more of a relationship, and it's wonderful, and I'm so happy God brought me closer to Him, and brought me to the raw foods lifestyle. But I just kind of wanted to talk about the Genesis 1:29 and kind of what that all entails. And so I just figured I'd talk about it. It's very interesting when you kind of really brainstorm and think about it in a little bit more deeper aspect, and it makes sense, it kind of makes sense. So you guys most certainly can let me know your thoughts and opinions too if you want. So I will stop babbling here, guys. Remember to love being raw. Put a big old smile on your face today. I hope I did that for you, and I'll see you guys next video, okay? Bye, guys.